Welcome to Straight Lines. I'm Tim Neiman. This is where life lessons meet leadership, where business gets a front row seat, and where you'll get a blueprint for success. Whether you are managing a team, building a brand, or just trying to lead yourself better, you are in the right place. Because here on Straight Lines, we believe the shortest distance between progress, purpose is truth, clarity, and action. Straight Lines brought to you by Baseball Blue Book. Blue Book has been in Game's trusted directory since 1909, and now it's where businesses connect directly with players, parents, and coaches. Create a profile, promote your services, and join the community. If your business wants to stand out, it's time to get in the book. Download Baseball Blue Book today from Apple or Google Play. Very excited today to have a very special guest with us on Straight Lines, a global perspective to baseball and leadership. Mirko Heid, a key figure with the Bonn Capitals, one of the premier baseball organizations in Europe, and an influential leader with the German Baseball Federation. Mirko has been at the front of developing elite talent, building sustainable sports organizations, and growing baseball in a country where the sport is still emerging on the world stage. His work sits at the intersection of high performance, business strategy, and long term athletic development. And there are powerful lessons here, not just for baseball, but for leaders in any industry. Mirko, welcome to Straight Lines, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you, sir. We'll dive into a bunch of different topics here today, obviously, and we'll kind of go wherever this may lead. But obviously, having somebody from Germany, from Bonn, and you and I met a summer ago, uh, in August, about a year and a half ago, and I was very impressed with how things went in the organization, and really enjoyed speaking with you as well. So we're going to try to educate a little bit here in the U.S. and perhaps around Europe about what baseball, is like, and to run and operate. Um, Germany traditionally not known as a baseball power. So what's changed over the last decade, Mirko? How it's elevated their play?
Well, I think German baseball has come quite a bit of a distance within the last decade. You have to understand that in Germany, after World War II, a lot of baseball clubs were founded around where the American soldiers were stationed in West Germany. And in the mid 80s, early 90s, a lot of baseball clubs got founded in Western Germany. And that was because the American culture of life was very influential to German culture. So a lot of clubs got founded, and over the last 30 years, the baseball culture has been grown in Germany. A lot of cities now have a team, have baseball fields, because you have to understand Germany is very soccer heavy. So 30 years ago, we almost started playing with every team on a soccer field, except for the ones that were close to American air bases or American, like Bonn was the capital city, so a lot of Americans from the embassy were stationed there, and we got the infrastructure of a nice baseball stadium from the American embassy. And around those nuclears, there were a lot of clubs that have been growing. And in Germany, right now, there's about 25,000 people playing baseball and softball. And Germany is among the top 20 teams in the world ranking in baseball, although we're compared to the baseball heavy nations in the world, very, very small. We've been participating in European Championship, World Championships, and WBC qualifiers. So yeah, I mean, it's coming a long way. with Donald Lutz, we had a major leaguer out of the German program. We had a couple of guys that made it all the way up to AAA. Max Kepler is currently playing in the big leagues right now. We have a couple other guys that are in the minors right now. So for a small country like Germany, it's come quite a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, Max Kepler's with the Philadelphia Phillies, an hour from where I'm sitting right now, and I really enjoyed, interacting when I was over there. Like Marcus Saulbach, one of the outstanding players in Germany, um, and a great pitcher. I believe he got to AAA, I believe. So you really are starting to produce some pretty good players. You mentioned softball as well. Now, Bonn Capitals, really one of the flagship club programs. I would think got to watch some games live streaming. Even though there's a 6 hour time difference, I really enjoyed watching the games and learning and the quality of play is pretty darn good. So with the Capitals, Mirko, are there any standards for you? I mean, what has separated your organization? Baseball, you can certainly talk about softball as well.
Yeah, Bonn Capitals are, I think, the second biggest club in Germany and Europe because we have been focusing on baseball and softball, and especially with the youth programs. So that is all has always been one of our trademarks: having a strong youth program, having the club success pretty much based on our own talents that we bring up, starting at 6 years, starting with the T-ballers and the coach pitch kids. So having a strong base was always our foundation. I think over the last 30 years, we always were aware of the situation that we always need the best coaching available. So over the last 30, 35 years of the club existence, we always had a lot of very influential coaches come in, and we always made sure that we have the newest style of coaching and baseball and teaching the young kids that was available out there. I mean, compared to what we have to offer to pay, that's always a big gamble because Germany is soccer heavy and it's not a baseball country. So making sure we have the right amount of money to get the best coaching available for our club. I think that's one of the trademarks. Yeah.
And it seems to be paying off. Obviously, I know obviously the baseball team has been extremely successful, and if I follow along with softball too. Your softball club is doing very well also. Who's the biggest? What's the biggest club in Europe? You mentioned you're probably second largest. Who's the largest, if you know off the top of your head?
I don't know. Yeah, Regensburg, also in Germany, in southern Germany. I think they have a couple more players on their list, but they are the number one club in Germany and Europe, and we come up second. Yeah.
You mentioned the youth programs that you have, and I've seen the younger kids practicing and playing, and that's a great complex. That it's in Bonn. Very nice. How many kids do you have? How many boys and girls, if you will, do you have in your program? And what's the focus on that player development with them? I know you mentioned having good coaches. That's key, obviously. Um, what? How many kids you got so far?
We got roughly 250 kids playing in our program. We had 16 teams last season in competition. We start with the T-ballers, with the U10, and then all the way up U12, U15, U18, and then we try to lead them to the top level. With the U10s, we focus on teaching them the basics, teaching them the rules of baseball, and then U12 try to get their skills a little bit more up in order to have to have them play live pitch. And then when they get to the age of U15, you kind of see which kids are more into recreational sports, which we also offer. But also there's always a group of kids that want to be more challenged. And those are the kids that we put in the more specific programs, more repetitions, more training sessions during the week. And those are the kids usually, if they're good enough, they make the program of the German national teams in the U15, U18, U23. And if they go through those programs, then usually they're ready to go either to college in the United States and or be a part of our program in our first team in the top league in Germany. There's one thing I want to throw out there because a lot of people told me in the past, also Americans told me in the past, I'm not sure if baseball would work in Germany because it's so soccer heavy. I can tell you the difference, man. I've been to many places on this planet, and if you find a couple people that are passionate about baseball and like kids and like working with kids and bring the spirit, man, this sport works wherever. And even in soccer-heavy Germany, if you have a couple coaches that bring some passion about the game, and you get some kids together, I mean, it works everywhere, and it works here too. I mean, you can get the kids, right away.
Yeah, amen to that. Amen to that. You have somebody that cares a little bit. The kids know you care. They're going to give you the effort, and they're going to want to learn. And you can make them better, and they're better because of your leadership without a doubt. And I wanted to mention too, you were a pretty prominent player, right, in Germany for a while with the Capitals. I think you were a pitcher, I believe. Well, because of all those things, you have created quite an organization, and I think it's quite frankly very impressive to be honest with you. What's the gap? Do you still, I know you're fighting, football, soccer. I think handball's gotten pretty big in Europe, maybe in Germany. Um, what's the biggest gap? Yeah. What's the biggest gap now? And it's closed, obviously. I think I watched some of the qualifying stuff. I thought maybe maybe the depth of quality players. It's kind of like Division 3 baseball in the United States, where in Division 1, there's just more better players, at the higher levels. Now, do you see the same thing? Is that what maybe you think on this?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the amount of games that we play is limited. I think that is one of the big factors. We only play 2 games a week. Our season is limited from April to late September, early October due to weather reasons. And yeah, the amount of games is limited also on the youth level, but also on the top level. So we wish we could get in more games, but the distances are too close to play during the week because most of our players are still working or going to the university and have a life next to baseball, so they're not professional. So playing during the week is heavy. So the amount of games, I would say, and also the amount of games in youth baseball. For example, my son plays in the U12 program. My one son plays in the U12 program, the other one in the U10 program. And I think if we wouldn't have scrimmaged in practice all the time, I think they would only come in like 20 games during the season.
Hmm.
Whereas you compare that to American kids or baseball heavy kids in baseball heavy countries, they get in much more games, and that is repetition that's also missing. But you can see
Yeah.
most of the guys that come over to the United States, either to college programs or into the minor leagues, are pitchers because you can obviously simulate pitching and live at bats and simulate the pitching level much easier than the hitting level.
Hmm.
So most of the Germans that are going over are pitchers. Yeah.
I think on the upper side of that, where you play the games on the weekend, especially at the youth and the younger levels, I think it could be a blessing, because I think the kids play so much in America, play so much, and they don't learn baseball. They just go out and it's become very selfish, in a lot of ways in a travel situation. There's some clubs that do it very well, but many don't. And for you, the blessing could be, the amount of times that you can have your teams practice during the week where they're actually learning baseball, learning skills and, you know, mastering the fundamentals. I think in the long term, that could be a something that could really pay off. And perhaps it is at some point in this point of the game where, I mean, international baseball kind of lead me in the next question. International baseball is very important to what you're doing. I know you've been involved with the German Baseball Federation and have quite the say still. How important is that? I think to me it looks like that's the light at the end of the tunnel, right, Mirko? I mean, this is what we're trying to do: get on the world stage and win some tournaments and make an impact. And I think you're getting close. But circling way back, I think that's a couldn't be a byproduct of really teaching the game and playing the game the right way and the fundamentals and all that stuff. I think that could absolutely be a real positive, down the road.
Yeah, I think it's the truth is in the middle. From what I heard, a lot of kids are being overplayed in the United States because they not only play for their high school, but they also play on three different travel teams.
Absolutely.
I think that's on the other side, maybe too much, and maybe only 20 games during the season is not enough, but probably something in the middle. Would be a goal for us to increase the number of games and maybe teaching the games in the US. Yeah, probably somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
A high school kid could end up playing 100 games in the spring and the summer and the fall. And you're right, somewhere in the middle is probably the answer. If there was somehow, in your league to be able to play a Wednesday game, just starting with a Wednesday game. You have the two on a weekend. We have double headers both days on the weekend. Is that correct? I forget.
No, single 9 inning games on Saturdays and single 9 inning games on Sundays.
All right, so single Saturday, single Sunday. If you could end up getting something scheduled on a Wednesday, you're starting to meet that middle ground. That has a chance, but the logistics always are a problem. Visiting here with Mirko Heid of the Bonn Capitals in Bonn, Germany. If you're enjoying straight lines and the conversations we are having, I would love to bring that same energy to your organization. I speak to teams, conferences, schools, and groups about leadership, resilience, and living a life that will cast a large shadow. If you're looking for someone who connects, encourages, and inspires with real life stories that matter, I am available for your keynote and special events. Please reach out to me at CoachTimNeiman.com. I would be honored to serve your group. Again, back here with Mirko Heid, Bonn Capitals. He's a terrific, terrific leader, terrific passion. We've already seen that, so far for baseball and young kids, and his own boys are playing. It's kind of really cool. And baseball is that common denominator across the entire world. So it's unbelievable. And we get the right people involved, and you get the right folks teaching with bringing that passion. It's amazing what can be accomplished. Um, what do you think priorities are at this point? I think we're scratching at it somewhat, Mirko, about growing the game in Germany. What's on the horizon here?
Yeah. For me, as the president of the Bonn Capitals, my job is, or I feel like my job is to get the program of the Bonn Capitals to a more professional level. And that is increasing the income streams that we have with the Capitals, invest in more infrastructure, make the events that we have around our first team in the highest in the German Baseball League, make it a fan experience. And I think we have a great chance of doing that because if you bring the people, if you build it, they come, and if
That's
they come, then all the other stuff like sponsors and all the people that want to jump on the bandwagon, they will all come. And I think we have established quite a way in Bonn. Last year, no, 24, we were in the finals, and in the 3 home games that we had nearly 2,000 people watching the game. I know for the U.S. that's not a whole lot, but for German standards, that's pretty cool. And so increasing that level of professionalism without losing the people that are working for the club on a volunteer base. I think that's a small line because a lot of people, we have some professionals, especially on the coaching side, but most of the people around the club and the organization and the management of the organization, that's all volunteer work. And by professionalizing an organization, you have to find a fine line in getting more professional every time without losing the people that are voluntarily working for the company. Because if it turns out that all of a sudden all the people that are working for you on a free basis now say, "Hey, where's my chip? I want some of that." I think that is something that would overwhelm us and would be too much for our organization. So it has to grow what's the English word? Gradually in steps. Yeah, I don't know the English word right now, but
fair.
it has to grow in
I
steps.
think I bet and I watch the games, believe it or not, and I've been to the Rhine Hour, which is amazing, an amazing complex, and to see all the fans that are in attendance and the concessions are going on and the sponsors. And I think it's absolutely amazing. And 2,000 people at a ball game is nothing to sneeze about. That's really good. And again, in soccer, football, crazy area, that is extremely impressive. We're going to talk a little bit about the sponsorships and the business side of things shortly. Are there any from a revenue standpoint or any other collaborations with Major League Baseball or the federations in Europe, or is there anything that comes back to you, I don't know, if not so much monetarily, but maybe product wise?
Major League Baseball has been supporting the German Baseball League over the last couple of years. They helped us getting more professional within the league structure, within the management of the league. So not necessarily with the Bonn Capitals, but with the first German Baseball League. And I think that has much improved all the free TV production from every game that we broadcast over YouTube and other channels. That has improved. I think not all the channels, but a lot of channels are on a minor league level. The commentators, some are in English, some are in German, some are bilingual. So that came a long way. But what they're also supporting us is obviously with the players that come out of major league programs and that are done playing in organized baseball in the United States and that come over to Germany and be players here and be coaches here, that knowledge transfer is very valuable. Especially with German players that are coming back who play professionally, but also with American, Dominican, Venezuelan players that played in organized baseball. That's a big influence. And obviously, all the kids are watching MLB, so that's a big influence. If after the World Series, everybody in my U10 team wanted to hit like Otani, I mean, those are huge influences.
That hasn't changed for decades, right? And you and I did the same thing when we were younger and emulated people. How many teams are in the German baseball league right now?
There's 300 clubs roughly in Germany, and in the first league, in the men's first league, the German baseball league, there's 12 teams playing right now, and we're heading for 16 teams.
Wow, that's very cool. Um, so the Olympics have probably have had a big impact, and I'm certainly glad that the Olympics are in baseball. It's back on the docket. Went away there for a year for a cycle or two. Um, do kids are guys playing in the German baseball league or in the clubs? Do they see that and aspire to that? What impact has the Olympics had on producing guys and chasing that dream?
I mean, I can speak from my own experience. I've been playing till 2009, and 2008 that was the last year baseball and softball was on the regular program of the Olympics. Beijing was the last time, and Germany, and I was on that national team. I was the captain of the national team back then, of the German national team. We had a chance. We were in the last qualifier in order to make one of the spots for Beijing. And that was one of the things that drove me throughout my career. I knew it was an outside shot, but if you have a chance as an athlete, to participate in the Olympics, I mean, that is something that is in the center of your life. You think about it all the time. You work on it every day. And that is something that really drives you and drives your motivation. And I can tell from my own experience after there was a final qualifying tournament in Taiwan, and we didn't make it. We didn't win one of the spots. That was like the air got sucked out of me. There was a lot of motivation gone after that. And yeah, so I know it's a big factor. And maybe let me add this for your listeners and viewers as well. Being in the Olympic program is a huge part of the German and European and other countries as well, but in the German sports funding system. Because the sports funding system for all other sports that are not professionally like soccer, you're getting funded. You get some help and support from the government if your sport is Olympic. And there's a couple categories. If you're a sport that is Olympic and has a chance to win medals for Germany, then you're in the highest category and you get the most money. If you're an Olympic sport and you have a so-so chance, you're in the middle part. If you're an Olympic sport that hasn't won any medals for Germany in the past, you're in the lowest part. And then there's a whole bunch of nothing. And then there's the non-Olympic sports. So for baseball, being on the Olympic program regularly, not only in Tokyo or the United States on occasions, but being on the program regularly, that would be a huge impact on our sport in Germany. So having it in the United States is great, but for us in Germany, it would be awesome if baseball and softball would be back on the regular Olympic program for every Olympic that is happening, and not only in the cities or in the countries that are baseball interested, like Japan or the United States. Yeah, that would be a huge impact for our sport because especially since we're not professionally in all aspects, governmental funding is very needed. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a difference. Obviously, you watch the Olympics, you can tell where the emphasis has gone, especially in countries that maybe not as big as the United States, where it's just poured into multiple sports. And I guess a lot has to do in baseball with the Olympics is the ability to host a baseball tournament. Softball as well, to some extent, at least the fields aren't as big, but not everybody can host a baseball tournament because they probably don't have enough quality facilities. So hopefully, I think it'd be huge, and getting a chance to meet some of your players and watching some of them, like Marcus Solbach on in the qualifying stuff, and really, I'm a German baseball fan, and I think it's going to happen. I really do. I think it's got a shot to do it. We talked a little bit about this, but maybe even have a broader sense, and this is probably going to be key going forward. How do we get those kids away from soccer, away from other sports? Or how do we entice them? And I think the Olympics and being on TV and seeing all the other stuff certainly would be inspirational, but it probably still is secondary to the World Cup and the Olympics and soccer, World Cup especially. How do we get them? How do we get them the way? And maybe do we share? Do we somehow share those athletes some way? I think the specialization in youth sports might be a little too much, but and it's one big funnel till you get to the top where there's the best of the best are left. But that's not everybody. And how do we get those kids, Mirko?
Yeah, like I said before, I think the biggest factor is you got to have some youth coaches that are passionate about the game, passionate about the sport. And with the multi-sport athletes, I think that was a big key. I have a lot of kids in our program that are either playing soccer and baseball at the same time. For example, my two sons, they're playing baseball and soccer. And also, there is handball players, which is mostly played in the winter and indoors, and basketball players. Bonn is also a very basketball-heavy city, and so those athletes that are ideal because they're good athletes. Handball players also know how to throw. They also know how to move. You can tell with the kids if you do agilities, if you do the running ladder, if you do some agility movements, you can tell if those kids are playing soccer or handball or basketball because they can move and they can run. And I think that's a good program. And by not having them specialized so early, if we throw out the U10, U12 programs with practice 4 to 5 times a week, we would only get the athletes at that stage that are not very athletic because they're not in any other programs. But if we practice maybe 2 times a week with the game on the weekend, we can also have the kids that do not have to decide by the age of 12 if I only do baseball, if I only do soccer, if I only do handball or basketball. If you do practice twice a week and have it on the weekend and have them do another sport during the week, I think that can be beneficial. Obviously, if they get to the age of 15 and older, and we need to specialize them, and the amount of practice needs to be increased. Obviously, you gotta have to make a move, and you gotta have to make a decision at that stage. But I don't think with a 12-year-old or with a 10-year-old, you have to tell them, no, don't play soccer. You have to practice baseball. I think we'll minimize our program by at least 50 to 100 players involved. So
Yeah,
yeah, looking forward, super important.
I agree 100%. Um, perhaps when they start being, like you said, 15 years old or they're starting to shave or whatever, then it might be time for them to, specialize more. But specialization at a younger age, I mean, let's let them be kids. Let's let them figure out what they like and enjoy, and over time they end up showing you what they like and enjoy and their passion and everything else. We're going to talk a lot about the business side of things as well. We'll mix one more question in here before the second break. What are the biggest challenges you see in European baseball, today?
What the biggest challenge in Bonn for me is, since our club is still growing, especially on the youth level, is getting enough coaches.
Hmm.
um, which is a good
Problem here.
problem. Which is a good problem, I know. But I mean, to have some qualified and passionate coaches to cover all the teams that we have, That comes with growth. It's a good problem. I like to face the challenge, but that's one of the bigger challenges that we have. Other
Do you,
than, like I said, getting more income in, and I think we're going to get to the business part of it in a second. To make the development and the increase of professionalism happen, we got to also have the economic side more emphasized, and that's one of the big other challenges.
do you offer youth coaching clinics to your aspiring coaches? You bring people in and have them kind of teach a little.
Well, Germany is very into having license for everything. Not only driving license, but you
That's a
gotta
big
have
soccer.
license and everything. So whatever sports we do in Germany, the coaches have to be certified, and
Yeah,
they have to go through programs which are organized by the federations in order to get their official coaching diploma or certification. But we also have a coaching program, coach to coaches within our program, where we have the
yeah,
top coaches like Stan, who came over from the United States, the coaches that we had before that, Clemens, who's one of the most knowledgeable pitching coaches in Europe, who's on
yes,
our program, Marcus Solbach with all his minor league experience and coaching talent. We have them coach our younger coaches how to teach the kids, how to approach them, and how to emphasize the right skills, and that's within the organization. Yeah.
what's interesting, Mirko, is when I was over there, just at the practices, I love the practices. So talking to Marcus and some of the other guys, they're still learning too, and they're so eager to go ahead and share what they know with the younger coaches. And I think that's where, like, I'm older now, but that's where I started. I mean, man, I just had a passion for learning and getting better. And sometimes you learn things that don't fit your personality. That's okay. But we want to teach the coaches, how to interact with the kids. And it's all about the kids. You have to develop the human being, the person first, which is pretty much the same in business and anything else. They're going to stick with you and be loyal and end up being a pretty integral part of your organization. Visiting here with Mirko Heid of the Bonn Capitals, having a great time with him, and he's developing not develop, he already has his own legacy and continues to grow it, as all we should. When the game is over, what will people remember about you? My book, What is Your Legacy? Challenges leaders, athletes, and everyday people to think beyond the scoreboard. It's about purpose, impact, and the mark you leave on others. If you're ready to find your legacy and live it with intention, this book will guide the way. Get your copy of What is Your Legacy today and start shaping the story only you can tell. It's available on Amazon. You can also go to my website, CoachTimNeiman.com. Back with Mirko for our last session, and time, just every guest we have goes quick, and you can almost carve these things up into segments and 3 or 4 or 5 series, and maybe we'll do that sometime. So much more to talk about. We're going to get into the favorite topic of mine, and certainly a big topic for this show, Straight Lines. There are leadership things that always carry over, which is always very interesting to me. Um, what have you witnessed from a business standpoint that might carry over to a baseball organization? Again, good time to mention, and forgive me if I don't pronounce this right. I had 4 years of German in high school, but I can ask you your name and tell time. That's what I remember. Und wie viel Uhr ist das, right? But anyway, um, stop work, stop work bond, right, is where you are employed, and maybe touch on that a little bit, and then from those lessons you have there in business, how do they translate into baseball?
Yeah. Yeah, the Stadtwerke Bonn is an energy supplier, a local regional energy supplier. We have heating, energy, water, waste management, the public transportation in Bonn. All the buses and trains are covered by us. Um, yeah, the lighting system of the streets is covered by a company, and I'm the head of strategy in that company. And I feel that a lot of things that I've learned in baseball helped me also on the business side in my life and business, and the other way around too. I wasn't in business when I played, but I coached after my playing career, and so I had a parallel career in business and also in coaching. So a lot of things that I took from the job also implemented into my coaching style. And I think the number one thing that is yeah, the same in baseball and in leading an organization is, I think, a leader that can throw out an idea and have a plan and communicate that plan, how the organization, how the team should develop within the next year, the next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years. I think that is always the base of a good team structure. If somebody can throw out an idea, and it doesn't have to be the perfect ideas. They can also other people come in and chip in ideas and make it even better. But you got to have somebody with a plan, with a vision, that is able to communicate that and bring people on board that say, hey, you know what, I'm going to buy in. I think that's pretty cool. I want to be part of this. And I think if you have somebody that has that skill of throwing that out there and picture it for the people, then I think that's always something very beneficial in business and in sports. And the second thing I want to mention on this is the players that played for me when I was coaching. I always I didn't always approach them with what can you do for the team. Obviously, that's also very important. But I always wanted to make sure what's in it for you personally. You want to become a starter. You want to become a German national team player. Maybe you want to go to the college to the United States. What are your personal ambitions? And then use those personal ambitions with their strength and bring them into the organization and find the right place for them to be valuable. And that's also something that I try to implement in my work with the Stadtwerke. Not only squeeze out every drop of sweat out of the employees, but find, hey, what's your ambition? What do you want to be successful in, and how can I help your career? And I had a lot of young talents in my business side also coming through my strategy department, and then they are now working on different areas within the companies because not all of them could make their career within my department. But I was always supportive instead of keeping them down and pushing them back. I was always putting them in the flashlight and saying, hey, I want you to have the best career that you can have, and if you bust your ass here in this department, I'm gonna make sure and support your career, and maybe not in this department, but I'm gonna make sure you get a good review, and we're gonna make sure you're gonna get a good career. But also, there's also employees that are not that ambitious, which is cool too, and which is okay too. Not everybody has to be an overachiever. Not everybody has to become a manager. It's cool if you show up and do your professional work every day. That's also, I take that any day. You
Sure.
gotta work to find out with your players and employees what is their personal ambition, what are their strengths, and find the right place and let them blossom, let them grow.
That's outstanding, and I think it's so important. And you're touching on this that it's really key to celebrate the successes of others. We're not here to push them down the rungs, push them down the ladder. We're here to help them up, and those are true leaders. And I think sometimes young people have a hard time understanding that. They'd rather bad mouth or say something that's detrimental to maybe a teammate or an employee that elevates them in some manner. And really, what they don't realize is like, guys like yourself that, like, geez, that's, in baseball world, and you'll know it's called makeup, right? After all the evaluation is done, what kind of a person are you? What kind of a person are you? And that has become so important. And I think also, and I think you're this type of manager where you encourage, input. And one of the books I really like to read is called Execution by Larry Bossidy. He was a General Electric disciple of Jack Welch, if you will, who was, put General Electric on the map. But he talks about robust dialogue, sitting in a room with your other peers or subordinates or whatever, and allowing them to give you their thoughts, their ideas. And knowing everybody in the room, if it's 6, 8, 10 people, whatever, that at the end of the day, the man in charge or the woman in charge is going to end up making the final decision. And we may not like it, but we're all on board with it. But the point is to be able to allow them to have a voice. I think also really, really important in any organization, business, baseball. It's amazing how baseball specifically, and they make good employees, baseball players, because why? Do they can deal with adversity, right? They're 3 for 10, 7 times, not so good. You're not so good. So they can deal with that and they become really, really good employees as well. I'm sure you see mistakes made. Go ahead, Mirko.
It's getting lonely at the top. And if you don't have a team surrounding you that is telling you the truth or that is telling other opinions and sharing other opinions, it narrows down. It narrows down. And at the end, your vision and your ideas and the critics and the different perspectives, if they're not addressed, then your decision-making process is very narrow. And you should always have a culture of trust that everybody can speak their mind and openly address their ideas and perspectives without having to fear that if you don't like them or if they don't fit, that they're gonna get in trouble. That's something I always made sure in coaching, but always made sure in business life as well, to have everybody speak their mind. And we might not be doing it that way, but I want to hear your opinion. At the end, I'm the one that needs to make the call, but I want to hear everybody and all the opinions and take their perspectives as well. And I've seen leaders in business as well that don't do that. And at the end, they only have a circle of trust of 1 or 2 people, and that's not enough. If only 1 or 2 people on good moments have the ability to tell you the truth or to criticize you, that's not good. That's very lonely. You gotta make sure your circle of trust is a little bigger than that. People are not feared to speak their mind and give their opinions. Good point.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think you would like that book called Execution. Um, and it's exactly right. You need to encourage them, and it becomes back to respect for the person at the top, but also knowing that that person is welcoming their input. That input that could be important, and somewhere in there is going to be a gem, and maybe in that first meeting or two, nothing resonates, but down the road, oh, something stuck, something stuck in the wall, and we've got ourselves a very inspired, motivated, fledgling superstar in the works, and I think that's so admirable, and it's so to me, it's a definite key, a definite fundamental that has to happen in the leadership, business, and anything. We touched on a bunch of different topics. I'm going to kind of keep this theme rolling here. Are there habits that separate successful executives from the average ones? I'm sure you've run into many, many of those, and we've kind of touched on some of that already. Uh, in your estimation, in your view, what are the really great characteristics of a successful executive? Which, you've already touched on one of them.
Yeah, I think the most important one is create a vision. The other one is to enable people to bring in their strength. I think the next one is to create a team culture, a positive team culture, so we can eliminate the negatives and the elements that pull a team down. But team culture that makes it positive and makes it fun coming to office or coming to the ballpark every day. And also, I think a good quality of a leader is to explain to their teams and to their circle of trust the decision-making process, what all goes into it. Not to make an excuse, yeah, I made the decision this way, but you told me differently. Not to have an excuse, but to have them follow through what is going through your decision making process for them to understand. Because if they know what your decision making process all calculates into, then they get a much bigger view, a much bigger perspective of what their next input has to be. And also in coaching, you can only make the players better if they understand what is behind the strategy that we're playing here. Why are we approaching the pitcher or the other team? Why are we approaching them with this strategy in this game? You have to explain it to them in order for them to learn the game. And in business, if you want your employees to be knowledgeable and to give you good input by the next time, they need to know what is the decision-making process behind it. And the last thing I want to touch on, because it's also important for me in coaching baseball, but also in my business life, the people have to know. They have to know their straight lines. They have to know the areas where they can make decisions on their own, where I have full trust that they can make decisions on their own, which are their responsibilities, which is cool when you make decisions on your own, where you have to ask other people in order to make the decision, or if the both of us can't make the decision, how do we start the decision-making process in the organization going so we get a decision? So if I'm able to make the decision, they have to know, don't come with me with questions or decisions that you can do on your own. Do them on your own. They have to know that. They also have to know what are the topics that I need to decide, or we together have to decide. And then there's also decisions that are above my level that needs to go to the CEO. But we got to make sure we get that process going. So not everybody, oh, I thought you would talk to him, or oh, maybe we write him an email. No. We got to be clear about, am I taking it? Are we writing him an email? What do you want? And in order to get the decision-making process. And I think that's also key on a baseball team. If the head coach or the manager enables his assistant coaches, what are your areas where you make the decisions? We're clear on the direction that we want to go to, and those are the areas where you can take the decisions on your own. Just let me know. And also where the players can make the decisions on their own, just let me know. But I think to make clear to your team or to your coaching staff, to your circle of trust, what is the direction? Does everybody know where we're going? Does everybody know where the lines are? And does everybody know where their freedom of decision making is and where it ends?
Fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. I could talk to you about baseball and business, all day long. Very, very good. Where do you see German baseball headed in the next decade or less?
Yeah, to be honest, I think even if we would double the amount of people that play baseball and softball in Germany, we would have 50,000 people playing baseball and softball in Germany in 10 years, which would be enormous, which would be a growth of 100%. I think that the limitations of that growth will be infrastructure and coaching. Infrastructure and coaching will be the limitation to those. But I see at the areas or the cities or baseball clubs that are already have the infrastructure and have the club structure. I think those clubs can become much more professional organizations, and I think they can build a nucleus which is attracting a lot of more fans to the sport and a lot of more kids to the youth programs. And I think that is the way German baseball needs to head within the next couple of years.
I think you get it, build it and they will come, right? I mean, kids and players like facilities, like the straight lines. They like to be taken care of. They want to know people care, and they'll come. There's no doubt about it. I ask every guest, Mirko, what does straight lines mean to Mirko Heid?
I mean, I touched on the business part a little bit, but I wanna talk about youth baseball a little bit. Straight lines for me. How can you communicate with the kids the rules of the game and not make any excuses for them? So be tough on the rules and be tough on how do you teach or rule the game or practices, but also keep them motivated. Because that's a fine line in baseball. Baseball builds and reveals character. I mean, I read some smart books about baseball from the United States. I read that, and I think it's very, very true. And at a young age, for kids that are not experienced with so much frustration, baseball is a pretty difficult sport to learn. Like you said, if you have mastered it, you're 3 out of 10. So sometimes you fail. And if you start in youth baseball, and those are all kids, or most of them don't have a baseball dad that's playing play catch in the backyards or have BP in their own batting cage or hit off the tee. Those are kids that are learning the game from ground zero. And that's having straight lines to still have them live through the frustrations of learning the game, but not making any excuses for them and making it easier for them, but keeping it straight, keeping it within straight lines, but still have them laugh through the frustrations and love the game. I think that's the fine line we need to hit.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Really, really good. Thank you for joining me on Straight Lines, where leadership lessons meet the game of life. If you enjoyed today's show, share it with your friends and colleagues. Subscribe and connect with me on social media for more insights. And if you want to dive deeper, check out my 2 books, What is Your Legacy and Team Killers. Please visit CoachTimNeiman.com and check out our YouTube channel at the Neiman Legacy Network. Until next time, lead with clarity, play with purpose, and keep those lines straight. Mirko Heid, it's been sensational as I knew it would be. I can't thank you enough. And, please let's stay in touch. If I can help you in any way, do not hesitate and keep up that great work, because I know for sure you've got 2 eyes on you, in the United States, watching every move you're making. And I am actually enthralled with it. So, Mirko, thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me.